65,000 businesses closed in the UK in just 3 months. Not over a year, a single quarter. And it will shock you to know that of every business registered in 2020, more than half are already gone. So the question is the entrepreneurship in Britain actually dying? And if it is, who is killing it? Let's look at the numbers. Let's start with what we actually know. According to the Office of National Statistics, 65,750 businesses closed in the final quarter of 2025 alone. Now, closures happen every year, and that's normal, but the trend line is what matters here. Non-employing businesses, that's your solopreneur, your freelancers, your one-person operations, fell 6.5% between 2020 and 2025. That's not a dip, that is a structural decline. And it gets worse when you look at survival rates. Of the 325,000 businesses registered in 2025, only 47% were still operating by 2023, less than half. And those survivors, just 2% achieved what the data calls meaningful growth. So as a country, we're not just losing businesses at the top, we're losing them right at the infancy stage. But this downward trend isn't only caused by market conditions, because when you dig into what's actually changed in the last 18 months, the picture gets significantly worse. And a lot of it comes back down to policy. Let's be fair about this. Some of what's happening in Britain businesses is global. You've got energy cost, supply chain disruptions, and you've got the cumulative weight of post-Brexit trade friction have made operating margins thinner than they've been in years. For a small business running on tight margin, that alone is difficult. But what's unique about the UK is what's piled on top of it. In April 2025, employer national insurance rose from 13.8% to 15%. Now, a 1% percentage point increase might sound dramatic, but the threshold at which employers start paying was slashed from £9,100 to £5,000. The result is that for a single full-time worker on minimum wage, employer NI costs jumped from £1,600 to over £2,500. That's a 60% increase per head. Across the economy, that's an estimated £25 billion in additional cost. The British Chamber of Commerce called it powder keg. 82% of firms said it would impact their business. 58% said it would hit recruitment. And the NI rise is not the only thing businesses had to deal with in that time. The national living wage went up 6.7% from April 2025, then another 4% in April 2026. The rate for 18 to 20-year-old rose 16% in a single year. Combine the wage increase with the NI changes, and hiring one full-time minimum wage worker now costs over £2,300 more per year than it did 18 months ago. For a small cafe, a local retailer, a family-run cleaning company employing 8 to 10 people, that's not something you could just pass as a rounding difference. That's a critical factor in deciding whether to stay open or to close doors. And we haven't even got to the legislation yet, because what's coming next may be the part that worries small business owners the most. In April 2025, the Employment Right Act received royal assent. It's the biggest overhaul of UK employment law in a generation. Unfair dismissal protection, previously kicking in after 2 years, now applies after 6 months. Statutory sick pay starts from day 1 instead of day 4. 0-hour workers must be offered guaranteed hours. Now, let's be clear. These are genuine worker protection. Day 1 sick pay, guaranteed hours, faster and fair dismissal rights. There are strong arguments for all of them. The question I'm asking is not whether workers deserve them, but whether small businesses can afford to provide them, whilst simultaneously absorbing 25 billion in AI increases, rising wages, and a 140% jump in business rates for high street retailers. The Growth Commission estimates the act will cost the UK economy 23 billion in GDP over 5 years. Even the government's own revised figures put the annual burden at around £1 billion. And then there's funding. In 2025, 42% of UK startups that raised funding still ended up closing. We're talking about fully funded ventures that secured significant investment for the project, but still couldn't make it work. All of which feeds into the third problem, which is confidence. Small and medium enterprises reported a net 25% fall in revenue in the first quarter of 2025. When revenue is falling, costs are rising, the tax burden is increasing, the regulatory environment is shifting underneath you, the rational calculation for a lot of people becomes very simple. Don't start, don't expand, and don't hire. The entrepreneurial instinct hasn't disappeared. The environment is punishing it from every direction at once. Now, here's where it gets interesting, because depending on which data you look at, you could argue the exact opposite. PwC released analysis showing that startup failure rates in 2024 were actually at the lowest in a decade. Lowest in 10 years. And in 2025, 832,000 new businesses were still registered across the UK. On the NI front, the government doubled the employment allowance to £10,500, meaning around 865,000 of the smallest employers now pay zero employer NI. Micro businesses are partially shielded. So, how could you square those two things? Record closures and record registration all at the same time. Crushing cost and targeted relief, again, all at the same time. The answer, I think, is that we're not seeing the death of entrepreneurship, we're seeing a filter. The barrier to starting a business has never been lower. You can register a company in 20 minutes online, but the barrier to sustain a business has never been higher. We've got easy start, but it's brutal to survive. And that shift matters because it means a headline number such as "look how many new businesses get registered" are masking a churn rate that should concern anyone serious about long-term wealth of the UK economy. So if you're finding this useful, do consider subscribing. We'll break down stories like this every week, cutting through the noise with actual data. Alright, let's bring this all together now. So, is entrepreneurship dead in the UK? My answer is no. It is being reshaped by policy, by cost, and by a regulatory environment that seems to have forgotten who actually creates jobs in this country. The solo entrepreneur, the person starting a business from their kitchen tables, is disappearing from the data. What's replacing them are two extremes. Venture-backed startup that either scale or die fast, and the side hustles that never become full businesses at all. The middle ground, the traditional small business, the local employer, the backbone of British towns, that's where the real erosion is happening. Squeezed by NI, squeezed by wages, squeezed by regulations, squeezed by rates, not by any single policy, but by the sheer weight of all of them arriving at once. And that should matter to everyone, whether you're planning to start a business or not. Because those businesses employ people, they pay local taxes, they keep high streets alive. The numbers do not lie. Entrepreneurship in Britain isn't dead, but it's on life support, in the places that need it the most. What do you think? Is this a crisis or just an economy evolving? Let me know in the comments. And if you want to understand more about where the economy is actually heading, I'd recommend this video next.